for Beasley.
I thought it was a really good team win. I thought the spirit of the team was really, really good. Zeke is a big part of that running game. You know, it starts up front with being physical, controlling the line of scrimmage, and then as the game wore on, you make bigger and bigger runs. And I thought Dak was outstanding. Just made some big-time throws and extend the lead late in the ball game. He was outstanding.
How about them Cowboys? Hope y'all had a wonderful weekend. Welcome into First Take on a Monday. Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith, and look who was kind enough to join us last minute, six-time Pro Bowler Donovan McNabb in the house. So good to see you.
That's a nice way to start, but we got to start talking about the Cowboys. This is just a terrible way to start.
Let me say this. I'm not the boss. I'm not management. But somebody looking to get themselves fired, they're going to start off the show talking about how about them Cowboys.
That would be me.
Don't start, Mollywood. Don't start. I'm telling you that right
Stephen
now.
A.
I'm in a very, very bad mood
Team's
today.
legit.
Very bad mood.
And they got their future quarterback. They're looking all right. All right, let's get into it, though. Actually, I want to talk about that bad man, Aaron Rodgers. So we kick things off with Green Bay's worst defeat at home with Aaron Rodgers as the starting quarterback since the 2011 NFC Divisional Playoffs. You'll remember that. That was against the Giants. Stephen A., how do you explain that bad man losing to America's team?
It's very simple to me. He's not that bad right now. I can't believe I'm saying this about that bad man that he is, Aaron Rodgers. But Max, Donovan, I don't recognize this brother. I don't know who the hell Aaron Rodgers is. I mean, I'm sorry, and I'm not one of those dudes. You know, we go back a long ways now. I don't get personal. Now, I talk about your performance on the field. I'm starting to wonder, you know, the fiance, you know, I mean, what's going on? How's the whole life? You eating the wrong stuff? You ain't getting a proper rest? I'm starting to wonder about Aaron Rodgers. You know, hey, help a brother out here because I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm seeing. I mean, this dude right now, relatively pedestrian performance, threw 42 times, threw for under 300 yards. I'm not accustomed to seeing Aaron Rodgers. You miss Randall Cobb, got him wide open, touchdown. You overthrow him by yards, at least by feet. I'm just looking at this and I'm saying, what the hell is happening? You audible at the 5-yard line, end up losing control. You fumble the football. You lose control. You're throwing interceptions. You're overthrowing. You're underthrowing. More importantly, I'm watching the Dallas Cowboys. They sent 4 guys after him. Then they sent 3 guys after him. They barely blitzed. They weren't even getting pressure half the time. They just threw 7 or 8 guys in coverage, and he's standing back in the pocket with all the time to throw, call his fiance, call the family. How y'all doing? This is what I want for dinner before he can even throw a pass. Had all of this time and was still missing. I don't understand what I'm seeing. Max, Donovan, help me out here because I'm struggling. I'm struggling right now.
That's what you were seeing. What happened to Aaron Rodgers was the Cowboys. This last week was the Cowboys. The week before was the Giants because they kind of had similar game plans. From what I saw, Donovan, they intentionally weren't bringing pressure. He's better under pressure. This is what the Broncos did to Cam in the Super Bowl last year. When you have a mobile quarterback, if you can contain him and take that part of his game away and turn him into a pure pocket passer, it's not that he can't do that. It's just that's just part of what he does. You're turning him into a lesser version of himself. Now, I asked Ben Alamar, our he heads up our analytics department, because I was thinking, is there anything underneath
Not the analytics.
That's right.
There you go.
Oh, excuse me for asking people who study this.
There you go with the analytics.
Who study it.
We say researcher, but you want the analytics.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying.
Excuse me for asking
MIT, Columbia, MIT. Which one is it?
I don't want to hear about those
Oh, my
statistics.
goodness.
You mean the record of events? You don't want to hear about what happened?
No, we don't. We usually don't. Not the record.
Aaron Rodgers is 5th overall in adjusted QBR this year. Now listen, clearly the eyeballs tell you he's playing worse.
Right.
But also, the yards after catch, Packers used to lead the league. Now they're middle of the pack. That affects things. Even the fumble, and it's right to ask, is something going on at home, right? Because I used to wonder the same thing about Phillip Rivers, went through a rough stretch for a year or two. That can also be explained by natural variance in performance. No one is the same guy every single time. Donovan, it seems to me, he's not quite the same, but I think reports of his demise have been exaggerated.
One thing that we all have to understand is there are times when you get older in this league and your game kind of goes down. There's things that you have to change. And what they're not helping him right now with this offense is they're not running the football. Eddie Lacy has been banged up. It seems like James Starks is always hurt leading up into toward the end of the season. So you need to help this young man out. It seems to me when you watch him as well, he's overly extending plays. He's missing wide open receivers, and then he's trying to throw it to him late. He missed Rodgers on a crossing route, threw it behind him. He also missed Jordy Nelson a couple times. Randall Cobb overthrew him, but he thought it was going to be an extra play because he got him to jump off sides, or, you know, he'll catch him going off on the sideline. The thing about this Green Bay offense, and it's been that way pretty much since they won the Super Bowl, they're inconsistent. We rely so much on Aaron Rodgers because of his ability to throw outside the pocket, also in the pocket, but their defensive secondary is banged up right now. A lot of injuries in the secondary, so a lot of teams are throwing the ball on them and creating explosive plays. Yeah, they're number one versus the run, but they're not stopping the pass. So what does that do? Now that puts a lot of pressure on the offense to create that explosive play downfield, which he just hasn't been on time with a lot of his receivers.
Let me ask you this question, Donovan, because I'm looking at Eddie Lacy's numbers because you brought him up. He's averaging 5.1 yards per carry, but he's only rushing 17 times yesterday. 11 rushes for, against the New York Giants. I'm just looking at him here. He hasn't run the ball for more than 17 times in a game. That doesn't make sense to me, and especially, here's the question that I have for you. I'm trying to decipher why they're not running the ball when it's clear Jordy Nelson is not himself.
Right.
And you got more teams, you know, particularly with Ben McAdoo, because he was a Mike McCarthy protege and what have you, very familiar with Green Bay, very familiar with Aaron Rodgers. And when you saw what the Giants did, because he's their head coach, and you saw what they employed last week against Green Bay, even though Green Bay won that game, clearly Dallas wanted to emulate that, and they were wise to do so. Why is Mike McCarthy not running the football more, considering the fact that you're not getting what you used to get from those receivers?
Well, I mentioned that. Remember, James Starks, he's barely carrying the football as well because he's usually banged up. Eddie Lacy went out with an ankle injury last night. So now who do you go to? You go to Montgomery, a wide receiver, and bring him in the backfield, which ended up being the leading wide receiver for the football team yesterday. They're just not consistent in all phases of the game. If it's play action, if it's running the football or drop back pass. When I look at Aaron Rodgers, to me, looking in his eyes during the game, you can tell he's thinking about something. If it's a turnover, if he's missing a receiver. You know, most quarterbacks have short-term memory. Well, if they throw an incompletion or throw an interception, hey, we're going to the next play. It seems like he's harping on the past plays. And so now what that leads to, that offensive line now is looking at Aaron like, hey, we need you. We need you to step up and be Aaron Rodgers.
And he's not responding. And he's not
doing that.
Except there's another way to look at even getting stripped of the football in the red zone like 5
when it
or 4
rains and pours, if things just add on.
Yeah, exactly. But you could look at it another way. If he doesn't lose the ball there, that's not a quarterback making a bad throw. He gets stripped. It could happen to anybody. If he doesn't lose the ball there, it's probably a one-score game at that point. Third quarter, maybe the Packers go on to win. It's like a little bad luck at the wrong moment can make it look a lot worse than it is.
Let me say this to you, Max. I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers' numbers right now. This is his 5 games. Now, this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about here. Completing 58% of his passes in game 1, 55 in game 2, 62 in game 3, 51 in game 4 against the Giants, 73% yesterday. I'm looking at him from a completion percentage. He's completing 60% of his passes on the season. That is incredibly alarming. Because the accuracy is what this is why I called him the bad man that he is. In the pocket, scrambling outside the pocket to his left or his right, somehow, some way. And I guess I'm allergic to giving the Dallas Cowboys credit. I can't do it to myself.
You're not the only one.
I am allergic, and you better be, because I'd be ready to ban you from the show.
And he keeps bringing up the Giants over here, too, which is another problem.
Oh, I'll bring up the Giants plenty. Don't worry about that.
Go ahead, man. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
You know, if Tuck wouldn't have been hurt in that game, he would have had you. The Giants would have gone to Arizona.
Okay, anyway, go ahead. But this is what I will say. I will say about Aaron. When you get older, you rely on your arm a lot. And remember, he's been very successful with his arm strength and being able to put balls in different places. When your fundamentals in the pocket begin to go away, now all of a sudden your accuracy goes down.
Gotcha.
I mean, I know that you may get upset when I bring this up because you have an issue with him, but Brett Favre talked about it last night during the game. And he basically talked about during the course of your career, you'll go through ups and downs. And this right now is a time where Aaron is going down, and he's got to find a way to get himself back up.
It's been happening for about a year and a half now. About a year and a half now.
Speaking of that point and his numbers being alarming, I have a little trivia question for you guys here. Here's a pair of quarterbacks since week 8 of 2015 with almost identical numbers. Take a look. I want you guys to guess who quarterback 1 is and who quarterback 2 is before we move on to our next topic.
All right. What do you mean?
It's
Look
the
look right here.
same statistical
Exact same
profile.
statistics. So you see right there,
Brett,
blind resume.
Is Aaron Rodgers?
Is Brett?
Are you going to tell me?
Quarterback one
No, it's
is
gonna
Aaron
be a bum
Rodgers.
quarterback.
Are you going to tell me Jay Cutler?
Guess who quarterback two
Yep.
is worse than Jay Cutler?
Oh.
Worse than Jay Cutler.
Johnny
Amazing.
Manziel.
Wow.
Oh.
I will leave you with that, my friend.
Well, these are selected.
Let's move on.
Speaking of quarterbacks, first
Selected
you want to move
number.
on with the
Lot better than
quickness.
Manziel.
Donovan, you had a bold suggestion for the Cowboys, so I want to play some sound, what you said on the McNabb and Custer show. You can check that out Sunday nights on ESPN Radio. Take a listen.
Do you think about not only possible trading Romo at the end of the year, but also Dez Bryant? Because think about it, you don't have the problems of having to answer questions all the time about did he make it to meetings on time? Is he complaining about the ball? Are you worried about not getting Dez the ball a lot? Are you calling plays for Dez? Why isn't he as productive as he was with Tony? You have a young team right now that you can build around your running back, around your quarterback, in which exciting things are happening for this football team right now.
Donovan, strong words there. So you think, should the team trade Dez and Romo?
Well, I think at this particular point, just talk about Tony Romo. At this particular point, he hasn't been healthy over the last 4 or 5 seasons. And the back injury is a problem. The shoulder injury is a problem. Now you have a young guy that can play from the pocket as well as outside the pocket, and his leadership skills stand alone. And I love what I'm seeing from Ezekiel Elliott. The offensive line is stable. Terrence Williams all of a sudden is looking like a solid receiver. You got Butler catching passes. Jason Witten is being a big key for them. But the thing about when you have a young quarterback, he always has something to fall back on, a security blanket. He has Jason Witten, but he also has Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley is a guy who didn't even think he would want to play football anymore. They allowed him time away to get his mind back together, and he came back, and look what he's been doing. So this is the thing about Tony Romo. Tony Romo, you know what he's capable of doing, but he hasn't been successful over the last 5 to 7 years to take you where you need it to go. And then Dez Bryant, how do you miss treatments and how do you miss a meeting with a doctor to find out what's really going on with you because you're afraid of hearing bad news? Why is it that all of a sudden we're hearing that you missed 40 times in meetings or coming to the facility when everyone is expected? When things begin to get leaked out, that means there are a lot of thoughts going on right now upstairs in management, meaning if they decide to trade you, this is why we're trading him. But you already have a young nucleus. You have a team that everybody seems to rally behind Dak Prescott. And that's what football is all about. Football is about chemistry. Football is about timing. Football is about what can you do to help us win. And at this particular point, if they trade Romo, get some good picks, if they trade Dez and get a solid wide receiver, young wide receiver that they can continue to build, that three-headed monster that we've seen Troy Aikman be successful with, you might be able to have it with Dak Prescott.
Donovan McNabb, we go back a long way.
Mm-hmm.
You know when I think you're insane, I tell you.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm telling you that now. Dez,
Because I know you like Dez.
Dez, absolutely.
There with the gold chain and the X. the X.
That too, but the brother can play.
He can play.
I am allergic to dudes that can't play. You know that.
And distractions.
Well, listen. I'm not. You know me. You and I have debated this.
That's why I threw the distractions in there.
The distractions is not something that I always place that big of a deal on. You're right in terms of your critique of Dez. You weren't wrong about anything that you said. My point is this. Athletes are hard to find. Studs are hard to find. You know that better than anybody. So if you got a stud like Dez, by the way, that guy that was Dez Bryant that was a bit problematic, that's usually when the Dallas Cowboys are losing. When the Dallas Cowboys are winning, and they're in a position right now, they have never been in the career of Dez Bryant or in recent memory for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of having two young studs in a Dak Prescott and a Ezekiel Elliott. You talking about moving Dez? Please. Romo, yes, after the season is over. Yes, no problem with that.
Wrong.
But no problem with that after the season.
Right,
but,
after the season.
But Dez?
Yeah.
Dez, I'm not letting go of Dez. No way.
Well, see, this is the thing why I say Dez, because right now, Dez hasn't been out there in the last couple of weeks, and they've been very successful this season. We
Because
haven't
they were running the football.
We haven't had any drama with Dez coming back and what's
drama?
Okay,
What's wrong?
yeah, but when you have a core nucleus of veterans, yeah, you can handle the drama. But they have a young team. The team that they have, they haven't seen Tony Romo do great things besides what he did the MVP type season when they end up losing to Green Bay. But they haven't seen over the period of time what Tony has been able to do. With Dez Bryant, yeah, he's in the locker room. He's probably the energetic guy getting everybody pumped up. Guys are following him. But yet still, Dez hasn't been out there to help them out on the football
I can't
field.
listen to this foolishness anymore from the two of you.
It's a matter of time before Odell blows up over there with the Giants.
First of all, Donovan McNabb, you and I go back a long way in terms of me cursing your name as I watch you on television.
You're not the first or the last.
I hate what you used to do to my Giants. But you're both so wrong about this. First, let's take one at a time. Tony Romo. The Dallas Cowboys had a problem. They didn't have a backup quarterback. It cost them their season last year because I felt going into the year they were Super Bowl contenders if the defense could do what they're doing now, bend but don't break,
right,
given that offensive line and all the skills positions. But, hey, can maybe a backup quarterback tread water, just keep your head above water?
How long are you going to have a backup quarterback till he's, what, 40?
Just keep your head above water until Romo gets back? The answer was no, because they didn't have one. They draft Dak. They thought maybe they had one. Now, the answer is, the solution is, they have a backup quarterback. It's just not the guy you thought it was.
Right.
The backup is Romo. Why do you have to keep him as the backup? First of all, imagine what the Steelers would do right now if they had Tony Romo on the bench, how happy they'd be. Secondly, you can't get any draft picks for Romo. He can't be a starter for another team because his health is unreliable, given his back injury and age. But he's excellent when healthy. You know what that is? That's an overpaid but excellent backup quarterback. Don't get it bent. Don't get it twisted because he's the star name and he's got the contract. He's the solution on the bench for the Cowboys. Why would you then trade him and create the problem you just had?
Well, it seems that Bill Belichick was smart enough to do something with Drew Bledsoe when he went with the guy no one expected to be the backup quarterback in Tom Brady. And look what that's done for them. Not saying that could happen with Dak Prescott, but this particular point, you got to step out. Jason Garrett's going to have to step out and show us the man he is. I don't need to hear Jerry Jones telling us what the next step is. I need Jason Garrett to step out and say, you know what, we're going forward with Dak Prescott.
You and I, owe our national television audience an opportunity to have this conversation, getting back to the distractions. Because you once had a teammate named Terrell Owens, who clearly was a distraction. My argument, however, was he's the best receiver you ever had. Outside of Brian Westbrook, who you utilize in so many ways.
He's a running back.
You know, he's a running back, but I'm just saying, you know, he used to catch a lot of passes for you, too. What I'm saying to you is this. A distraction may be one thing, but at the same time, if it elevates your stature as a franchise, as a team, because of the multitude of weapons you have, does that not supersede it? Does that not supersede the distraction?
For the time being.
Yeah.
But for a long term, for a quarterback, it's going to become a problem because you know, just like I do, what it does to the locker room.
Yes, I do.
I mean, right now, it's nice in New York. For the Giants, but it's going to split up the locker room with Odell and Eli.
Well, can't you wait? I mean, the Dallas Cowboys haven't won since 1995. They haven't won in 22 years.
We want to wait 5 years and they don't make the playoffs, and then we talk about, well, maybe they should have.
No. I'm talking about if you're Dallas and you're flowing right now and you're flowing in this direction for the first time in Lord knows how long, and you're looking at a level of consistency that could potentially kick in to your benefit, why disrupt that? Because you're worried about how he's going to act?
Well, I didn't say trade him right now. I said wait till the end of the year. So this now gives Dez a chance to get back out on the football field and show us what he can do.
You're wrong about Romo because you can't get anything for him and because he can back up a QB.
I'm not sure you can't get anything. I'm not sure you can't get anything for Romo. I'm not sure you can.
I'm not sure that either. Would you rather have
7th round pick?
Well, would you rather have Tony Romo or Jay Cutler on your team?
How about that?
Tony Romo.
Thank you.
Then you get something for
You can get something for.
No, because the Bears, who are looking to turn the page at quarterback, aren't about to bring in an injury-prone guy at $20 million a year. The job of a GM in the NFL is just price talent. And if you can't rely on a guy to be there all year, you're not going to hand a 35-year-old plus guy with a back injury.
And my issue with you is you stuck on this Tony Romo thing. To me, Tony Romo is irrelevant right now. Des Bryant, first of all, the Des Bryant angle is far more important to me.
Incorrect. There are two things. One, Romo should stay on the bench as the backup. You can't trade him. Two, you got to trade Dez because you're going to get a lot for him. Dez has trade value.
But why trade him if he could be the stud for you, who produces for you, who gives you an additional weapon with Dak Prescott? Let's keep him on. Hold on, y'all. Let's keep this in mind, D.
I mean, I see it. You see it.
Well, listen, I don't. Here's the deal.
They're winning without him.
Dak Prescott The Dallas Cowboys have the #2 rushing attack in the NFL.
True.
Yes,
and they have a top 5 rated quarterback in QB rating as well.
QB rating, yes, but their passing attack isn't considered to be ultra formidable. Throwing in between the #2 or Beasley or Jason Witten. I'm just saying, having Dez outside the numbers, come on now. I mean, what are y'all talking about here?
Hey, Dak Prescott threw a nice touchdown outside the numbers.
The dead clock is right twice a day, man. Come on, man.
Hey, however it works.
Dez Bryant's good on any team, including the Cowboys. But if you can win without him and you have a young nucleus and no problems, and Donovan's right, there are distractions and starting to get leaked into the press, and you can get something good for Dez, trade him. Can't get anything for Romo, keep him on the bench.
Romo, yeah.
Distraction.
You know it.
We got to talk.
You know it.
We got to talk. We're going to revisit this conversation. We're going to revisit this conversation, Donovan. Distractions?
Absolutely.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
Come on now.
You know it like I do.
Donovan here speaking some sense for us. Appreciate the
Just
insight.
trying to help out. You know, I'm glad I can help.
We've been going through this for
You can put on a
years.
jacket and tie next
I
time.
mean, y'all got to let me know when I'm coming
Ahead of
on.
time.
I mean,
It's not
Come
your
back
fault.
and join us
It's
again.
Watch you whenever we can get you.
Yeah, Donovan.
I know you'll
How are you
know
going
how
to
to
be in
win time
Bristol
next
and
time.
not come by here?
Thank you.
Hope to see you again. All right.
Distraction.
Just talk about the emotion of the game.
Just got to find ways to win the football game.
Is this as disappointing as we've been in a while?
Next question.
The slow start, this has been a kind of characteristic of Stan's team this year. Why do you think that?
Just got to find ways to win the football game.
After tying it up there late in the fourth quarter, how frustrating is it to be on the sideline helpless watching?
Next question.
Where is the team go from here? That's it, right?
So there's that. We've seen this before, of course, post-Super Bowl, and the Panthers dropping to 1-5 on the season after they lost 41-38 to the Saints. Max, I want to start with you here. Is Cam's press conference a big deal?
I can't believe I'm saying this. Yes, it's a big deal. Now, let me start by saying football's not like baseball or basketball where we have huge sample sizes, so many games that we really know what the truth is all the time, especially early in a season. Because there are so few games, we're making guesses. We don't know if things are causal, meaning this happened, so that happened, or if it's just correlation. This happened and that happened. But because of that, if we notice a correlation and it's a bad one, that's bad for the player. So Cam gets up at the Super Bowl press conference and does this same thing and storms off, and since then they're 1-5. They're bad. They went from being world beaters, just about, couldn't get over the hump of the Broncos, but it's only the second game they lost all season, including the regular season, to, so far, let's say what it is, one of the worst teams in the NFL, 1-5. It's one of the worst teams in the NFL. And that happened right after he pulled this at the Super Bowl. And then he just did it again. Now, I'm generally one who says, I hate when the media makes a big deal about the way athletes talk to the media. We turn it into this story about moral rectitude and leadership and character. You have to have character to face the media. That's mostly BS. We're doing it because it makes it easier for us to do our jobs. So we put a lot of pressure on the athletes to make our jobs easier. But for the most part, I didn't care that he stormed off in the Super Bowl after in the press conference. I cared he didn't jump on the ball in the game. That's what who cares what happens afterwards? But if since then you're 1-5 and then you do it again, that's a bad look. And how do we know it's a big deal? Because the Carolina Panthers brought in Frank Luntz, the right-wing media strategist, to advise the team and Cam Newton how to talk to the media. They thought it was a big enough deal. They had to bring in a specialist to coach him. And then this happens again. That's a big deal.
I disagree with you. I don't think it's a big deal at all in this particular instance about Cam Newton, because to me, the Carolina Panthers and their problems are not about Cam Newton. What you had was a situation in the Super Bowl where Cam Newton needed to exude a level of maturity because you had been dabbing and celebrating and doing all of this stuff all year long, and then you lose the Super Bowl, and we needed to see a better level of maturity from you. In yesterday's situation, you are 1-5. You're the reigning NFC champions. You are 1-5. You are down 21-0. You come back. You tied the score at 38. You give the ball to your defense, which, by the way, was ranked number 6 last year, which was one of the elite defenses in the NFL last year, which not only had an elite front seven, but had one of the elite corners of the game in Josh Norman. Your defense is now ranked 29th. It's ranked 25th against the pass. Max Kellerman, have you ever heard of Zach Sanchez? You ever heard of that name? Anybody ever heard of that? You ever heard of that name? How about Daryl Worley? You ever heard of that name? Anybody ever heard of that name?
That I've heard.
You heard of Daryl? The only reason you heard about Daryl Worley is because he's been getting beat. It's the only reason you've been hearing about him, because he's a rookie. The other dude is Zach Sanchez. These were their starting corners yesterday against Drew Brees. Against Drew Brees. This is your starting cornerback slot, okay? So what I'm saying to you is this. You ever heard of some dude named Trey Boston? Ever heard of that name? I never heard of it. That was your free safety yesterday. See, this is what I'm trying to tell. You're Cam Newton. You got this dude, Dave Gettleman, who's your GM, who did a good job leading into last year, okay, and who was wise to stick with Ron Rivera. But ultimately, it's not just that you let Josh Norman go. You made him an offer, and then you reneged. You took it off the table. I cannot tell you how much that hurts. I cannot tell you how excruciatingly ticked off you can be if somebody betrays you like that. The bottom line is this. When you look at Cam Newton, he had to stand up front and center for the media, and as far as I'm concerned, answer questions his general manager should have had to answer. Why are we in this situation? Why did I give you the ball with a tie game, come back, tied up 38-0, and you got 2 minutes to shut down Drew Brees and to force this game into overtime, and they march right down the field and kick a game-winning field goal? How come our defense couldn't stop anybody? That's what this is about. And to me, Cam Newton sit up there, he's terse, he's short, because he can't speak truth to power. He can't sit up there and say, yo, they ain't doing their job. Our offense is doing the job. We got an offense ranked in the top 10. We got an offense, we got a running game and a passing game ranked in the top 10. This ain't on us. This is on these brothers right here. And it ain't even on the front stuff. You got Kuechly balling, you got Thomas Davis balling, you got Ely and a couple of dudes balling, but collectively as a defense, they're nowhere to be found. Their secondary is just scattered. It's a mess right now. And you know why it is? Because of arrogance. Because you see, when you're on top and you're a champion, you're supposed to act like you still starving. Remember, one of my favorite lines that I always say about my man Kevin Garnett, who is going into the Hall of Fame someday. I always said this. His level of dedication, his focus, and the way that he played when he had the ability to before Father Time caught up to him. No matter how much money he had, him, Kobe, LeBron, guys like that, no matter how much money they got, they play like they broke. They never take anything for granted. The Carolina Panthers took stuff for granted, and that's why they're in this position.
As usual, you make my point for me. Who's the leader of the team?
It's supposed to be Cam Newton.
It's supposed to be Cam Newton.
Right.
And what did you say the real problem was?
I say Dave Gettleman.
A-word, the arrogance. That's what you said.
Yes.
Problem is arrogance.
I don't think that's the case with him.
And who's the leader of the team? But the point is, we hear time and again from every football expert we bring in, we know from living on the earth for 40-plus years and watching a lot of NFL and from having rational brains, that part of the job of a quarterback is to deflect credit when good things happen and absorb blame when bad things happen. That's part of the leadership of the quarterback position, not to stand up there, essentially say no comment, and then storm off. And if your analysis is it's because he's mad because the other side of the ball isn't balling, that's even worse.
It's not that. It's not just that the other side of the ball or the other side of the ball isn't balling. It's that you got cats who don't play on the field making decisions that aren't in the best interest of the franchise. If something ain't broke, what the hell you fixing it for? What you mess with it for? You got Josh Norman, who's one of the elite corners in the game. You had him, and not only that, you made an offer and then took it off the table.
So you mean to tell me
yes.
that a quarterback is justified, or it's no big deal if a quarterback behaves that way, which generally don't care about how they treat the media, but right. After what happened with the Super Bowl, after how they played this year, we know what the quarterback's position is, the face of the franchise, almost on the verge of being the face of the NFL, leading into the Super Bowl last year. I thought we were living in Cam Newton's world. It didn't quite turn out that way.
I tried to tell you that.
It didn't quite turn out that way. But you mean to tell me that he's justified in doing it, or it's no big deal?
Justified in doing what?
Not answering questions and storming off because they didn't sign a cornerback last year?
I'm telling you.
They should look back in the rearview mirror
Do you
and harp
want
on
to
that?
talk or do you want to answer to your question? I'll answer your question. I am telling you that Cam Newton, I found no problem with what he did yesterday. I'm not saying that you don't answer questions and you storm up and you don't show up to a press conference.
Why
or you
don't
be
you have a problem?
disrespectful.
Because they didn't sign Josh Norman? You don't have a problem?
I said to you what he did yesterday to me.
But you're
was
using
not
it
a
as an
problem.
excuse that it's
was not a
okay
problem.
because they didn't sign Josh Norman.
Because of yesterday.
They didn't ask him about the defense.
But I don't have a problem with yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
Yesterday.
We've made that very clear. We're talking about
because
yesterday.
what I'm saying to you is that I didn't see his behavior to be extreme. I didn't find it to be. You're answering questions in a short fashion.
Yeah.
And then you ultimately leave.
And
I don't have a problem with that.
You didn't answer a question. Next question is not an answer to a question. And they didn't say, Cam, how do you feel about them not signing Josh Norman?
He answered
Cam,
about 4
what
or
about
5
the
questions.
defense?
Bill
Barely.
Belichick does it.
He
Barely.
answered about 4. He had nothing
Not
to say.
really.
He had nothing to say.
Not really.
He had nothing
and then he
to
walked
say.
off. It was exactly like the Super Bowl.
No,
What's the difference?
The Super Bowl was successively different because it was a complete reversal from what we had seen from him all
but
year.
now we know to expect this from them? After they brought in a media consultant?
When you're 1-5, yes!
Right. No, when
Yes!
you're 1-5, that's when you have to stand there and answer all the questions. Like, that's certainly the received wisdom.
I saw him answering questions Wednesday. I saw him answer questions a couple of weeks ago when they had lost.
So he did it twice, so it's okay.
But when you're 1-5, when you're 1-5 and you're blowing leads and giving up 41 points, you got a problem.
You think the Panthers think this is a big deal?
I think they think they're a big deal, not Cam. He ain't the problem. They're the problem.
He's the leader of the team.
They're the problem.
They might have more of an issue if he was nonchalant after having a 1-5 record.
I'm the biggest
Just
Cam
throwing
fan
it-
in the world.
Yes,
Can't believe
tier
I'm
one,
saying this.
tier 1 over here. We want you guys to win. Which reaction do you have the biggest problem with from the NFL on Sunday? Cam post-game presser, Richard Sherman tirade, or OBJ taking his helmet off after scoring the go-ahead touchdown, costing his team some yards? We will reveal the results a little later in the show. Weigh in on that. And speaking of Beckham, Odell did what Odell does on Sunday, for better and for worse, folks. Someone at this desk is down on OBJ after his game winner. Ryan Clark will be here. Join us.
Deep ball down the right sideline. He's got Odell on the run across the 40. He's to the 30, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown Giants, 75 yards, and they have their first lead of the day. Caught by Odell. He's racing across midfield. He's to the 40, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown Giants. Oh, baby, is he good.
Our relationship's growing. Me and Lynette are going to get married sometime soon. You know, just hopefully it all works out. I'm 23. I don't know much about marriage, but she seems like a pretty good gal.
Oh, Lord. On his best statistical day as a professional, OBJ was flagged for an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for taking off his helmet while celebrating on the field after the game-winning 66-yard touchdown. Ryan Clark in the house. Good day, kind sir.
What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Happy belated birthday,
Good.
bro.
Thank you, brother.
Yes.
Same to you, my man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What, you 42 now?
49. And I wish
Hey,
I
you
was
look good,
and I wish
man.
I was 50. I'm approaching 50, bro. Let me tell y'all something right now.
What did I just say?
I have no problem getting closer to retirement. It don't bother me. It don't bother
You
me
are
at all.
not slowing
It don't
down.
bother
That
me.
is a lie. Don't
It
lie to
bother
the
me.
American people.
I swear to
You're
you,
just getting
I didn't say
started.
I didn't say I would stop, but I like getting to that age. I don't mind getting older. I really don't.
Anytime someone has a problem getting older, just remind them. It beats the alternative.
No doubt.
There you go.
No question.
There you
No
go.
doubt.
Let's roll.
All right, Ryan, how do you feel about Odell Beckham Jr.?
I feel the same way I felt about him week 2, week 3, when everybody was coming down on him. Oh, Odell, you have to stop behaving this way because you're hurting the offense. Well, he wasn't throwing interceptions, and I've come on this show many times and talked about my issue with the New York Giants offense wasn't Odell's behavior. It was Eli throwing interceptions at inopportune times. Now, he still threw 2 yesterday, but he came up with the big plays late. Odell Beckham, the only issue I have with him yesterday is the 15-yard penalty for taking off his helmet, because that actually hurts your team. You score with 90 seconds left to go in the game. You don't want to give 15 more yards of field position to a team that's trying to drive and win the game. But other than that, I have no issues. You can propose, you can hug, you can lay down with the net, you can jump up and down, do whatever you want to do after you score that touchdown, because it does not matter as long as you make plays on the field. What we got to see from him yesterday is what I've said many times. When wide receivers wake up on Sunday morning, and they say you go to work and you bring your lunch pail and your toolbox. His toolbox has more tools in it than everybody else that's walking to the stadium. And that's what we got to see, whether it's the double move to go deep down the sideline early in the third quarter, the double move to get down the sideline early in the fourth, the slant catch, which we just trying, as New York Giants, we are just trying to move the ball. It's fourth down. We just want to move the ball. He's one of the few receivers in the league that when he's one-on-one with that free safety in the middle of the field, he knew he had no chance. I knew he had no chance. Everybody at MetLife Stadium knew he had no chance to stop Odell Beckham Jr. And that's what we saw. As far as his talent goes, it's unquestioned. The way he can produce on the field, there's no question. We were complaining about his first 3 weeks. He was 4 yards away from where he was last year in the All-Pro season. Odell Beckham Jr. right now is the premier talent at the wide receiver position. We can talk about his antics off the field. The one thing I know is when he gets in front of the mic after the game, he doesn't talk about Eli Manning. He doesn't talk about Ben McAdoo. He talks about winning games and trying to fix himself and be better for the team. And I can deal with that.
We're on the same page, except you're rushing past the 15-yard penalty. Odell Beckham Jr., I've been saying, he's the most talented wide receiver in football. But people who dispute that he's the best bring up the behavior. That's what is brought up. Now, do I have a problem with him being emotional? Not at all. You're right. He doesn't blame anybody at the post-game presser. I don't have a problem with the antics with the even hitting the net, whatever. Hit him in the face. You get what you put it out there, you got it back. And then hugging it out with the net. To me, that's fine. It's all fun and games. Him being emotional, that's all good. He needs that emotion. That's his mojo. That's his juice to get going. That's not a problem. But in a tight game, oh, by the way, that slant that he ran for the touchdown came right after Larry Donnell pulled the move that the kid from Louisville pulled. Instead of going for the first down, went out of bounds. When a kid in college does it, I'm not going to kill him. But when a veteran tight end does it in a game you have to win, that's a problem. And Odell made that go away with that play. But everybody knows you can't take off your helmet. Everybody knows that. And he took it off anyway. And it could have cost them the game. And I can't get past that. I already know he can ball. I've been saying he's the best. He's the best. Impulse control. Norman last year. The Norman game again this year. Xavier Rhodes with the Vikings. It kept happening. And this is... Now, it could have cost them the game. If he does it, he embarrasses himself, whatever, I have no problem. But when it's 15 yards in that situation where everybody knows the rule, you can't just run past that. I got no problem with the
Okay.
I have a problem with his impulse control.
I know we're going to Stephen A. Difference between that and Antonio Brown twerking the first week, right? And then coming back and doing it again. Because Antonio Brown is not a guy we focus on as being that way. We love his smile. We put him on ESPN commercials.
Score at the time.
We don't talk. It doesn't matter about the score. It does matter. It goes to the same point you're making. Impulse control. He knows he can't do it.
No, time and place. If you know it's a tight game and field position could determine it and one score could determine it and you do that, that's either dumb, and I don't think he's dumb, or you can't control your impulses. That's different if you're winning in a blowout. Do whatever you want. What do I care?
Stephen A.
You're being overly dramatic. The fact of the matter is that we all know that you don't put yourself in a position where you find yourself getting penalized, particularly when Baltimore could be in a position to win the game because you put them in a position because of an unsportsmanlike contact. We understand that. But you're being overly dramatic because you're saying that one thing just shows me blah, blah, blah. First of all, I'm not so sure he's the best receiver in the game. I know he's got great hands. I know he's got great speeds. I know he's electrifying and all that stuff. But Antonio Brown with Julio Jones, I'm not ready to give that up as of yet.
Premier talent.
I was talking to him. I was talking to him. I was talking to him.
If he's not, it's because of stuff like this.
I'm just saying. Oh, listen. Well, you could say it's stuff like that, and that definitely plays a role. But I think ultimately, all of that means is that, again, when you talk about the best receivers in the game, I saw Richard Sherman get away with a flagrant pass interference. Otherwise, Julio Jones would have caught that pass. But that's a different subject for later on in the show. My point to you is this. The reason why I disagree and the reason why I think you're being overly dramatic is because I think that as a Giants fan, you're not looking at the tremendous upside of what has been transpiring over the last couple of weeks. Because of the news that Odell Beckham made, because of all the wrong reasons, it has put a spotlight on the New York Giants, their doldrums as an offense with Ben McAdoo and whatever he's bringing or not bringing to the table. And as a result, it has forced them to get the ball more to Odell Beckham Jr. He's got 2 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. I mean, he's had 222 yards with 8 receptions yesterday. 3 times over the first 6 games, he's got, caught 50% of the passes thrown in his way, 72%, 80% yesterday. I'm saying to you, one of the people who was flying under the radar was the inept performances of Eli Manning. He wasn't throwing the ball effectively enough. We weren't talking about him enough. Why? Because he does the opposite of Odell Beckham Jr. He's composed. He conducts himself the right way. He's the consummate professional. He's very reliable, et cetera, et cetera. And because of that, we didn't focus on his inept play nearly as much as we should have. But when Odell Beckham Jr. started acting up, ultimately, he's a wide receiver. He's a diva. He wants the ball. That's probably going to make him happy. It'll probably inspire him to play even better and to conduct himself, for the most part, better. And as a result, it may lead to you winning. What happened yesterday? That's exactly what happened
Odell Beckham's talent, unfortunately for him, or maybe fortunately, because it means he's reached superstar status, is taken for granted. I expect him to do incredible things every week. That's what happens. That comes with the territory when you're the best. When LeBron James balls out, you're not like, oh, wow, look at that. LeBron James is great. Yeah, duh, he's supposed to be great. It's when he doesn't ball that it's a story. Odell Beckham Jr. is that kind of sensational athlete. When he's quiet in terms of his production, you're like, whoa, what happened? But when he makes spectacular plays, right, that comes with the territory you expect it. What you hopefully don't expect, and what could stop him from being the next Jerry Rice, it's not the work he puts in or anything like that. It's handing the other team a gift.
Right,
That's what holds you down.
Max, it's the first thing I started with. Listen, that is my problem with yesterday. You can't take your helmet off and penalize your team. But you mentioned the Xavier Rhodes. You mentioned Josh Norman early this year. Those things didn't bother me. I don't think the play on the sideline is a penalty. It's not. When the 2 referees standing next to Xavier Rhodes and Odell Beckham don't throw it, and the guy from the middle throws it, that's not a penalty to me.
Hold on, Ryan. First of all, Norman, he lost the game last year because of the situation with Norman.
I said, you mentioned Norman earlier this year.
And earlier this year, he was having a temper tantrum on the sidelines, but okay, I'm not gonna kill him over that because no penalty, anything like that. Xavier Rhodes, they missed the call on him. It should have gone against Rhodes. Odell got in their face unfairly. They hit the Giants with a penalty, and everyone knows the next one, you're out of there. And on the next play, he sought contact out of bounds. Now, you're right, they didn't call it. They could have easily, and he'd have been thrown out of the game.
And they would have been wrong.
But why put yourself in that position?
Because when you're great, things happen. That's what makes you special, okay? If everybody was the same, then no one would be special. Odell Beckham Jr. is special.
Right.
He's got a temperamental issue from time to time that comes with it. You would take that with his talent any day of the week because you always rave. Well, then stop whining.
No,
stop whining.
I don't mind the specialness. I don't mind the emotion. I have a problem with his impulse control. Keep it under control.
If you know him,
that's not him.
That's
not what works for him.
If you know him, he's these things. He values relationships, and he's loyal. So when Ben McAdoo and Eli Manning get up there and they ask him questions about him, and to me, they threw him under the bus.
Agreed.
He never got on the mic and said anything about those people. All he said is, I need to work on me.
Ryan, you're talking about what's commendable about him. There's a lot commendable about Odell Beckham Jr. That's not why I'm upset. I'm focusing on the 15 yards that could have cost him the game.
All right. It's been fun, folks. We got to go to break now.
Larry Brown. Call him Larry Brown for now. Larry Brown actually complained about Allen Iverson not playing the right way when he dropped 58. That's Max today.
All right, let's get our first
The Giants would have gone 2-4.
Enough of you all. We want to know what you guys think. Which reaction do you have the biggest issue with from the NFL on Sunday? The Cam post-game presser, Richard Sherman, tirade, OBJ taking his helmet off after scoring the go-ahead touchdown. We'll share those results a little later in the show. Listen to this, folks. You can win a chance to debate Stephen A. and Max right here on national television. We're going to pick 2 winners, fly you to ESPN headquarters in Bristol, Connecticut. All you have to do is go to firsttakeyourtake.com. Be sure to read and follow all the rules. for your chance to win. Then it's easy. Upload a 1-minute video with your best original sports debate. Please keep it clean. Plus, no music, team logos, trademarks, or copyrighted material. And we just want you guys to be yourself on camera and try to impress these two. Winners will be announced November 23rd by our show staff, so get busy, and we could see you in Bristol at the debate desk, taking on Stephen A. and Max. Meanwhile, let's take a look at some of the entries that have been submitted. Thank you for playing.
Dak Prescott, leave him to start. Until he starts disimproving, then you can get Tony Romo. But come on, Stephen A. Smith. Come on, Max. We both know he can't stay healthy for the life of him.
You got to give it up to Dak Prescott. He was a 4th-round draft pick by Dallas. People messed up. People picked Jared Goff. People picked Carson Wentz, Ezekiel Elliott, all these players. Where's Jared Goff now? Jared Goff is still, what, 2nd-string quarterback over Casey Keenum?
Are you familiar with the movie Any Given Sunday? Tony Romo is Cap, the old veteran quarterback that's injury-prone, who's past his prime. Jerry Jones is Al Pacino, the coach who's stuck with the old quarterback with the talented young Willie Beeman, that in this case is Dak Prescott.
I love it. You guys are killing it, and the outfits are clean. They're dressing better than you.
We got one dude that looked like Mike Tomlin.
Yeah,
and we got
he
another dude that clearly is a fan of Elvis Presley. You see that hairdo? You see that hairdo?
Nice
It looked like a damn
Love
toupee.
your hair.
But
I like Any Given Sunday reference.
Not bad. They got potential. Some of them. None of them.
Tough critic.
Willie
I mean,
Beeman?
none of them ready for this. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yes.
We'll see.
All right, let's get into our topic here. America's team, you guys are going to love this. Listen, Dak Prescott has now led the Cowboys to a 5-1 record heading into their bye week. So this is the 4th time since 1990 that Dallas has won at least 80% of its game heading into the bye. In 2 of the previous 3, what did they do? They won the Super Bowl. Ryan Clark still with us. Are they Super Bowl contenders?
Wow. I was really hoping Stephen A. or Max got to go first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first.
You get your Cowboys colors on today.
I go first. These are not really Cowboy colors, not to me anyway. Put the camera on me, please, because I want to make sure that I'm clear. And I shouldn't have to ask y'all to put the camera on me when it comes to what I got to say about the Cowboys. Where's the light? I want to make sure it's on. The light's not working, but it's all right.
You're on camera.
I am. Hell no. I want to be very, very clear. No. All right, now. Ezekiel Elliott has been very impressive. I got nothing to say about him. 4 consecutive games for 130-plus rushing yards, plus you go against the #1 rushing defense in the NFL yesterday, and you handle your business the way that you did. Major, major props. I like Dak Prescott a lot because the Dallas Cowboys finally have a backup who's really a starter now because Tony Romo's going to be the backup as far as I'm concerned before he gets traded, if he gets traded. But we'll see. This defense, as impressive as they were yesterday, as impressed as I was with what I saw from them in terms of rushing 3, rushing 4, dropping 7 or 8 dudes back into coverage, containing Aaron Rodgers in the pocket, giving him a little bit too much time to throw, but basically frustrating him because receivers weren't open and what have you, because you had so many people back in coverage. As impressed as I was for this defense, this ain't the defense like when Dallas won the Super Bowl in 1995. I mean, I'm still wondering about the playmakers. I remember Prime Time was on there. I remember Darren Woodson was on there. I remember some dude named Larry Brown, not the coach Larry Brown I just finished alluded to. Some dude named Larry Brown who lucked up because Neil O'Donnell decides to forget how to throw a damn pass and throws an interception to give the Dallas Cowboys the Super Bowl. Charles Haley and Leon Lett and those crew. I don't see those dudes on this defense. I believe that Dallas, here's what I think Dallas has done very, very, very effectively. And nobody has brought this up. Most teams win the coin toss, they give up the football. That way they ensure they'll get it to begin the second half. Dallas never does that. They've won 3 coin tosses this year, took the ball all 3 times. The other 3 times the other team won, they gave it to the Dallas Cowboys. I think 5 of those 6 times the Dallas Cowboys have ended up scoring. And I think it was when Dan Bailey missed a field goal. That's the only time they haven't scored. So when I look at the Dallas Cowboys, I think they have teams reeling because they come out the box, they punch you in the mouth with their offensive line in their running game, and they got you on your heels, and it dwarfs you a little bit. But I think ultimately the better offensive teams are going to make noise, and ultimately they will return the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not saying they're mediocre anymore because I'm willing to concede they're better than that. But Super Bowl contenders, hell no.
Okay.
I'm not giving that up to them.
Let me clean you up as usual. If the playoffs started today, they would have to be considered contenders. Better contenders than Seattle or Minnesota in the NFC? No. But contenders, yes.
So you give me two teams that's right in the same conference is automatically ahead of them.
Well, are they contenders?
That means they ain't even get to the NFC Championship game, but that's what you want to label as
the top three contenders to win a Super Bowl. If the playoffs,
I wouldn't put them against Atlanta. I wouldn't put them.
Yeah, I'd say that right. So
that's three I gave you.
So if they're one of four teams even, that makes them contenders if the playoffs started today. But the NFL has a season where the same team you have week 6 is not the same team week 17. It's just different teams. We don't know what they're going to be yet. In terms of their defense is okay. They're impressive because they're better than we thought they'd be. But is it really the defense or is it the offense? If you have a ball control offense that wins time of possession every single week, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott got off to, I thought, a slow start, but has been excellent since then, although it's not like, wow, he's breaking all these tackles. They're not touching him for 10 yards. There are holes, and he's showing acceleration. Take nothing away from him. He's a really good running back, at least, running behind the best offensive line in football. So they're controlling the time of possession. They have a quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over. So the defense isn't really on the field that long. How do you score on their defense when you never get the ball? That's why the defense looks as good as it does generally, which is about average. They're probably something less than that in reality. If the playoffs were to start today, they'd have to be considered contenders.
Well, we knew what you were going to say, and you did clean it up well. If the playoffs started today with these teams the way they are, even without Dez Bryant, the Dallas Cowboys are the team I feel has the best chance to beat all the teams in the NFC. And it's for many of the reasons you said, Max. It's about ball control. Why does Minnesota beat teams right now? Because of defense, because people have to drop back and pass and try to block that line. Well, they have an offensive line that can block them. They have an offensive line that can move them, right? So you go there immediately, your game plan is different because of the way Dallas runs the ball. The Seattle Seahawks, they're good. They're not great. They're not the same defense that you would be scared to go play against on Sundays. Their team is different. The Atlanta Falcons, I think that team is the team offensively that would stress the Dallas Cowboys the most. But do you trust that defense play in and play out to stop this offense? To me, they're right there behind the Minnesota Vikings as the team to beat in the NFC right now. And that makes them strong Super Bowl contenders because I believe in their offense a lot more than Minnesota. Obviously, Minnesota has a defense that right now is playing unbelievable. It's playing some of the best ball I've ever seen a defense play. 85 Bears, 2,000 Ravens type of football is what they're doing right now.
Broncos last year.
Broncos last year. Okay, now so we're going to just keep naming. There was one.
Well, Broncos are right there last year.
We keep missing that team, but I digress. Well, so what I'm saying is I believe in the Dallas Cowboys. I believe that as long as Jerry Jones doesn't mess it up, if injuries don't take out key players offensively more than defensively. Defense is about scheme. Like you said, defense is about playing off of this offense. If Ezekiel Elliott's healthy, if they make the right decision at quarterback when Tony Romo comes back, if Dez Bryant's able to come in and contribute, because now we see they can move the ball around. And we watched Dak Prescott drop dimes yesterday. The pass to Bryce Butler in the corner, that's not a rookie, let me protect you throw. That's a go get it, big boy. I'm going to sit over here and watch.
Beautiful pass.
And so when you look at this team and the way they progressed each week, it's even defensively. Aaron Rodgers is not the same Aaron Rodgers, but they made him look like a bad Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau Field. To me, this is a team that we can look at playing in the NFC Championship, and once you get to that point, once it's late in January, and you have an offensive line and a team that can move the ball and control it like this.
But the O-line is the only advantage they have over Seattle. Seattle got the advantage. Quarterback everywhere.
Do I have to listen to any more of this love affair between y'all? Can I chime
Seattle,
in?
We're not scared of any of those wide receivers. Doug Baldwin has been balling.
Yeah, we understand.
Ram too.
We get it. We get it. My point is this. Y'all make me sick sometimes. I swear, man. This love affair to Dallas, y'all just make me sick. Let me say something.
First of all, nobody loves the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, yeah, you do. I mean, please.
Right now, they're the girl that comes back to the 20th reunion.
Let me tell you something.
She wasn't getting it in high school.
Okay. I mean, I have to think about that analogy, but we'll investigate.
We've been dogging them for the last 3 years.
Let me say this to you.
12 and 4
Let me say this to you. Minnesota Vikings, top-rated defense, top 5 against the run. Seattle Seahawks, top 3 defense, top 5 against the run. Those are two teams that the Dallas Cowboys would have to potentially have to run into. And then there's the Atlanta Falcons with a high-octane, very, very potent offense, which would force Dallas to have to score the ball. And I don't think that the Dallas Cowboys would be in a situation where the level of ball control that they've exercised. I think that you'll find a situation where Dallas, as the season wanes, I believe they'll beat you big, meaning with their running game. They'll beat you big or not at all. They won't chunk 5 yards, 10 yards here, move the chains, control, dominate time of possession. I don't think it'll be something like that. I think they'll get big plays, or I think they won't get
top
a lot of
team in the NFC right now, though, you're saying.
Yeah, I'm saying
that makes them Super Bowl contenders.
Well, you say that too. I don't feel that way. That's your philosophy. I'm about winners, and I'm allergic to the Dallas Cowboys, seeing them as winners, especially since 1995 they haven't won anything. So as far as I'm concerned, you're telling me a divisional playoff appearance? Fine.
Well, I'm saying they might. By the way,
we ain't going to no damn NFC Championship game.
You're saying that this will stop. We saw it happen for a year with DeMarco Murray. Yep. We saw it happen in the playoffs. It was a
and they lost in the divisional playoff.
Wins. Right. Yeah. Listen.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Did you call him a Super Bowl contender?
We still don't know.
Did you call him a Super Bowl contender?
Time out.
Did you call him that then?
By the way, and I'm not even willing to concede that they'll make the playoffs this year.
Oh, Lord, man.
Last place in the NFC is the Giants. They're 2 games back from the Cowboys, and they have a win over the Cowboys.
I quit.
By the way, Washington is 3-2.
I didn't even say that.
The Eagles.
I'll leave with you. I didn't even say that to Matt. I didn't even say that to Matt. We just leave it alone.
We're going to holler at you, man.
You think just because they have a hot start, they're 2 games better than the Giants right now. The NFC
I didn't even say that.
I care. According to FPI, ESPN's Football Power Index, the Cowboys have the 3rd best chance of winning the Super Bowl behind the Vikings and the Patriots. Good times. Richard Sherman goes off on teammates on the sidelines
after have a negative turnover ratio all year.
Enough, Max. The guys will tell you what they thought of it after the break. After a dominant first half against the Falcons yesterday, the Seahawks defense cracked in the 3rd quarter. Atlanta turned a 14-point halftime deficit into a 7-point lead. Richard Sherman wasn't too pleased about it and went on an intense sideline outburst after a Julio Jones touchdown. He even had to be restrained by his teammates. Ryan Clark, do you like, love, or hate? Max.
Yes.
Do you like, love, or hate?
Yes, me.
His outburst.
Where this guy talks for 11 straight minutes and I don't have anything to say.
Please.
Now.
Nobody talks more than you. You
This is really
We're going to put a clock on this.
When are we getting the clock?
Here we go. Hold on.
Go ahead.
By the way, Ryan can talk too. You're not slipping out of this one.
Yeah,
the only one who doesn't talk is me.
Cowboys Super Bowl contender, but they ain't going to. They may not go to the playoffs.
That's right. That's right. The Giants won 2 Super Bowls at 9 and 7.
Can we stay focused?
Go ahead.
I want Cam Newton and Odell Beckham Jr. And all the different players we've been talking about today to look at Richard Sherman. You want to act up in a certain way that draws media attention? That's the way you do it, like Richard Sherman. That's who I want on my team. Don't let me sit here and have everyone, oh, you're just being anti-player. No, I'm not. Richard Sherman is who you want. Whether or not it was a calculated move on his part, it had that effect. He was upset. An all-pro corner was upset on a championship defense in the not-too-distant past because there were breakdowns in communication. He let everybody know about it. It had the effect, ultimately, of rallying the team. And they won the game. That's how you do it. Like Richard Sherman. Not like Odell, where you cost your team yardage in a pivotal moment of the game that could cost you because you get them within field goal range or make it easier for them to score a touchdown. You don't have an impulse control problem where it hurts your team. Your anger at a situation is used in service of your team winning. Richard Sherman is how you do it. That's the guy I want on my team.
Well, I didn't love it. I don't hate it because there's very little I could possibly hate about a Richard Sherman. I think not only is he a fantastic ball player, but I think he's an incredible role model because of where he comes from, how intelligent he is, how he carries himself, etc. But I didn't love it, and here's why I didn't love it. First of all, the guy Kelsey McCray that you really had a problem with for Julio Jones getting that wide open touchdown pass. It ain't like he's a starter. He's filling in for Cam Chancellor. Those are some big shoes to fill. That's number one. Number two, getting on the defensive coordinator so flagrantly, it not just speaks to disrespect, but it speaks to insubordination. You got to wonder about that. It's not a big deal because we understand that Richard Sherman is very outspoken, like those teammates Doug Baldwin, Michael Bennett, and others have said. I mean, that's nothing compared to what we've seen him like in the past. And I'm certainly not here to denigrate him in any way. I'm simply saying that if you are that dude, think about the intellect that he has and what he brings to the table. It goes back to my line that I just said a few minutes ago. If everybody were you, bro, you wouldn't be special. Everybody can't be Richard Sherman. And so when you got a guy like Kelsey McCray filling in for Cam Chancellor, and you've got the kind of problems that you've been having periodically, like he said throughout the season, we talked about it. That's why he was frustrated. We talked about it. We knew what we were supposed to do. We didn't do it. Yeah, you want to hold guys accountable. But when it's something that flagrant where everybody feels the need to rally together and rally around you, not just on the field, but on the sideline, you're giving the impression that you're completely out of control. Those other guys that have been through the fire with you might be able to handle it. But some of those newbies, you never know what kind of effect it would have on them. It worked out yesterday, but you got to think about that sometimes simply because they're not the regular crew that you always had. That's what I got from it.
Time.
He was 2 minutes. You were 122.
Okay, so we see what happens. Therefore, I'd like to use another 20 seconds to quickly say...
I usually have more profound things to say, but
incorrect. Richard Sherman showed his intelligence not only if the outburst was calculated, even if it wasn't, but the PI at the end of the game that wasn't called was also more smart Richard Sherman play. Otherwise, you lose on a touchdown. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? They spot the ball there? Big deal. Julio Jones is going to catch that if you don't interfere. He's just a smart player who knows how to control his emotions in service of the team.
Go ahead. Wrong, you're wrong. Right? Because you said, like, helps them win. They were down 24-17. They didn't score another point nor stop anybody, really, after that. Right? Then they get the pass interference in the red zone. They finally score. You get the last play. So it wasn't like this rallied the team and they started balling.
Won, though, right?
Yeah, they won. But, let's just make that clear. Here's what I loved about it, though. I love the reaction of his team. Right? I love the fact that they start jumping on the sideline. They start showing support for him, but they showed support as a team. This is about guys who've been through the fire with each other who know Richard Sherman. The thing that was smart about it is he knows he can do it. Now, there's some players on that team that can't. One, because they don't behave that way normally, and people have never seen them do that, and it's out of character for them, but it's not for him. And that's why it was okay. I agree with Stephen A. I don't necessarily like you going at your coach, but if you have that type of relationship, if that's the way that y'all get down, some of your friends you can talk to in a certain way.
Of course.
And Richard Sherman feels like he can do that. The craziest thing about it is the only person who played man on the play was Richard Sherman. So if it's a miscommunication, and maybe 10 other people communicated one thing, Rich didn't. They came out with one receiver. They motioned the tight end outside of Julio Jones. I'm sure there was a check to be made there, and they locked it up. Julio runs down the seam. It's a touchdown. So I understand his frustration. I actually like that he cares, because Coach Tomlin used to get on us after years and years of being good. When we would make a good play that we just thought was good, we dap each other off and walk back. When there was a problem, we always felt like, it's okay, guys. We can fix it, because we had been there so many times. What it showed me yesterday is he still has the same fire it took for him to become one of the elite quarterbacks in the league.
Well, there's no question about that, but the reason why I interject is because of this. Pete Carroll was quoted after the game as saying that the mistake that happened afterward, another touchdown play, he said it might have been residue from that situation. So again, we're talking about everybody may not particularly being able to handle things coming from a Richard Sherman. It doesn't make him wrong. It just means know your personnel around you enough to know that some cats may take that the wrong way. It may not handle it. It may not be strong enough to handle it.
And listen, this isn't the first time, right? It's just handled differently with different players. Remember last year, Carolina Panthers streaked down the seam to Olsen, Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas is a miscommunication. He's wide open. They have the conversation. It was a different conversation, obviously, because of what you said, the two people involved.
When an all-pro player and Super Bowl champion sees a miscommunication leading to scores against the team and has a temper tantrum about it to try to direct the team's focus toward that miscommunication, that's smart. That's not bad.
Listen, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. But what I'm saying is it's the reaction to it that made it a good call, not necessarily the fact that he reacted that way.
Was smart at the end, too.
We'll leave it there. Thank you for working the stopwatch. We appreciate that. Fastest these two have ever gone.
They went really fast. I think they did it purposely.
Of course they did.
Because they're
so competitive. They wanted to beat each other with the time, too.
Not really.
And I won as usual.
Oh, gosh. Ryan, we'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Which reaction do you have the biggest problem with from the NFL on Sunday? Cam's postgame presser, Richard Sherman tirade, or OBJ taking his helmet off after scoring the go-ahead touchdown? We'll share those results in just a little bit. But coming up next, Colin Kaepernick blown out by the Bills on Sunday. Did that prove it was a mistake to start him? We get into it. That's next. Hey. It was about good and bad news for Colin Kaepernick in his return as the 49ers starting quarterback. The good news is that Cap threw for nearly 200 yards with a TD and no picks while also running for another 66 yards. The bad news is his team was blown out 45-16 in Buffalo. After the game, Chip Kelly was asked if Kaepernick would remain the starter, and he just said, "We'll see." Stephen A., was it a mistake to start Kaepernick in the first place?
Not at all. I mean, it is what it is. He's got to get in there. He's got to work off the rust. He's got to, and the conditions are not going to change. It really wasn't about the Buffalo Bills. It's how anemic the San Francisco 49ers are. Their offense has no playmakers. Their defense is awful. They've given up 100 yards rushing to 5 consecutive runners over the last 5 weeks. Chip Kelly, once again, surprise, surprise, no surprise at all. He's paid little to no attention to the defense, and it gets to a point where the second half of the game arrives, and it's like you don't even care. You don't even want to be out there. That's how the 49ers absolutely positively looked. I understand the temptation to sit up there and say, hold off on Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was clearly set up to fail. I don't put that on Chip Kelly as much as I put that on Trent Baalke. I think Trent Baalke, the general manager for the San Francisco 49ers, is awful. He's the guy that contributed to running Jim Harbaugh out of town. We see what a moribund, pathetic franchise the San Francisco 49ers have regressed back into now that Jim Harbaugh is gone and Baalke's got his fingerprints written all over that, along with Ned York. But in the end, what it comes down to about Colin Kaepernick, this Buffalo Bills defense, Max, Rex Ryan paid the ultimate insult to Chip Kelly without even mentioning his name. When asked whether or not he made any halftime adjustment, he said no, not at all, didn't need to. And the score was only 17-13 because he knew that Chip Kelly was going to do the same thing over and over and over again. There was nothing special about it. And as a result, the defense just remained disciplined, and that was what it was.
For the record, Rex Ryan's seat getting colder, ain't it? Cooler and cooler.
Well, let's
cooling
get
off,
cooler and
because you
cooler.
were calling for his head not long ago.
That's right. When they were 0-2 and they looked awful, and he fired his offensive coordinator using him as a scapegoat. But this new guy has stepped in. They've scored over 30, and they're running the ball more effectively, and the defense looks halfway decent.
Scored 128 points on San Francisco yesterday. I mean, that was a ridiculous score. Listen, this was a mistake to start Colin Kaepernick against the Bills, just as I said it was going into the game. And, in fact, they got off easy. It could have been a lot worse. The Bills hit the quarterback more than all but, I mean, they're among the league. It changes week to week. But they're among the best at hitting the quarterback, and they hit the quarterback hard. And the fact that Kaepernick got out of there relatively unscathed is lucky for him and the Bills and the Niners. And the fact that he's shaken off some rust is also another good benefit of that game. But that was a mistake. And I want to get into that set up to fail thing. Let's get into this conspiracy theory a little bit. First of all, they negotiate out his injury provision, so they're not guaranteed money. He doesn't get guaranteed money if he gets hurt, but they buy him an insurance policy. The insurance policy is much cheaper for the team than actually paying out the money. If he does get hurt, the insurance company pays out the money.
Good point.
Then they start him against a team, a vicious defense that's been hot, on the road. Now, why would you do that if you want your guy to look good, if you're trying to win? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, okay, so he got out of there without an injury. They're not out of it that way if you follow this conspiracy theory. I'm not saying I subscribe to it,
but I do subscribe to it.
It is interesting.
That's my point.
And then you can now sit back and say, well, I don't know who's better, Blaine Gabbert or Colin Kaepernick. They're kind of similar. And, in fact, this version of Colin Kaepernick is similar to Gabbert, and he won't look any better than Gabbert if you start him in Buffalo. They should have waited till he's at home against the Bucs and start him then.
It's not similar because he made plays with his legs. He was the leading rusher for the team yesterday, and that's something that Blaine Gabbert would never do. In the end, what it comes down to is this. Colin Kaepernick, there is no doubt that he brings more weapons to the table, and he should have been used earlier as far as I'm concerned. I think he has been set up to fail. I wouldn't put it past the 49ers at all right now because I think based on the whole Jim Harbaugh situation, a legitimate argument could be made that they appear to look like a corrupt organization. I really think that's fair.
But this is what's odd to me. I know what you mean. I'm saying there are reasons to go into that conspiracy theory. What's odd to me, though, is Chip Kelly offense. We're going to run a lot instead of short passes, because short passes, there's a possibility of turning the ball over a little more than a running play, right? There are more variables. And when we take shots passing, it's going to be down the field. That's Kaepernick. Kaepernick is the right quarterback for that system. Why hire Chip Kelly for a Kaepernick team if you want to set him up?
I totally agree, but my point is that, hold on, I see what you're saying. You're saying that why hire Chip Kelly if you want to set Colin Kaepernick up? What I'm saying to you is that the whole setup process began after Chip Kelly arrived. I think they're balky with Chip Kelly in terms of their mode of thinking. I'm not saying Chip Kelly himself is involved in this, but to hire Chip Kelly and to bring him in after his history in Philadelphia, to follow that up with Kaepernick not wanting to be there, to follow that up with the Kaepernick protest, to follow that up with Kaepernick's contractual situation, and you weren't able to unload him to Denver, all of that stuff. I'm looking at how things unfolded, and in the aftermath of Chip Kelly's arrival,
I agree.
That's where I'm at.
There's plenty of evidence to support a conspiracy theory there, and when you think about starting him at home against the Bucs, a much worse defense in a town that you'd think would be more sympathetic to Kaepernick's cause, at home especially, versus Buffalo on the road, a place where there was a vendor outside the stadium selling Kaepernick T-shirts with his face in the crosshairs. I mean, completely reckless and irresponsible and a really bad thing to do. But you sent him to a hostile environment agaest a vicious defense. It's being set up.
You didn't know it was going to be that hostile.
No, of course. And unless they thought that was their only shot to win with Kaepernick. But we're going to break. Black and yellow is now black and blue. With the injury to Big Ben, were the Steelers overrated, though, even before Roethlisberger went down? Merrill Hodge in the house. He'll join us after the break. The source says doctors expect the procedure to be more of a cleanup, so it generally favors a speedy recovery. Meanwhile, backup Landry Jones is expected to start next Sunday against the Patriots, so Pittsburgh falls to 4-2 this season. Merrill Hodge in the house, good day.
How are you?
What's on your mind, man? What's on your mind?
Before we get to black and gold, because I know you do, about both of you hit the tree and missed the target.
Call him out.
With the Kaepernick 49ers.
This is devastating for me. I love Merrill Hodge. This is devastating for me. Go ahead.
Missed the target.
That's why I'm going to try to be gentle with this. So you guys are talking about the 49ers as a whole. Let's say, I'll use an analogy of a car, okay? You guys keep trying to rotate the driver out of there to fix the car when it's the motor. That system that they're running in San Francisco is never going to win in the National Football League.
Well,
I'm watching the game. I'm watching the game yesterday.
Chip Kelly.
And I cannot. So that's the problem. I don't care what quarterback goes in there. And Kaepernick, you know why Kaepernick was eventually become the starter? One of the major reasons they eventually turned it over to him.
They were
One
losing.
reason, not just losing. They would dial up big plays and he would miss them. So they're like, Kaepernick, we're going to give you that opportunity. First dial-up post they get, he overthrows him by 6 yards. Now, people go, well, he hit that one, that ended up being a touch. That was a bust, and he almost couldn't catch that because he
come back to get it. Yep.
He didn't improve in that area. He did not add one thing to this
First
offense.
game back against the Bills defense
At the
on
end
the
of
road.
the day, listen, it isn't about, he's played a lot of football. When you miss a post route and you got a defender trailing you by 2 yards and you don't hit that for a touchdown, and it's the first time we call it and we get it, that is exactly why we let you start. It wasn't his ability to run. So until this system will never win in football.
Oh,
in the
so
NFL.
in other words, you're telling me that Chip Kelly belongs in college?
Absolutely.
That's all I'm saying.
You can just start. Chip
We
Kelly
agree there.
in the gym.
There's no disagreement. There's no disagreement. Now, I was worried about you for a second. I was worried about you for a second.
I missed the tree, hit the target.
We're good. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Fire away.
Are the Steelers overrated?
No. Listen, Ben is one of those amazing equalizers that elevate. He's like a John Elway. You look at a lot of Super Bowls John Elway went to, and the ones they probably lost are the ones I'm referring to, where he took a team to the Super Bowl based on how he could offset the deficiencies. He is the one rare cat that does that at a high level. When you lose him, and the way he's playing now, which is, I think, very misunderstood. I think everybody thinks Big Ben moving around, making plays. Ben hasn't done that for 3 years. Ben has been beating people with his mind and his arms, which gives him a real good chance of coming back from this injury a lot quicker than normal. If this is 5 years ago, boy, he's going to have to be completely healthy before he returns. Well, now because he doesn't have to cut, move, and do all the things he used to, he could get back on the field a lot quicker. But when he's on the field, he'll be able to. He makes them a legitimate contender. Without him, this is a very sub-average team right now.
Let me say this. we know I love my Steelers. And I had them going to the AFC Championship game against New England. When I watched them give up 204 yards rushing, the Steelers, it's bad enough I can't stand their secondary, which I complain about religiously. It's bad enough I can't do that. But for a rookie, in J.I., 204 yards rushing, I don't know how to feel right now. I'm not going to jump completely off the wagon, but I'm worried about them. And I'm worried about something else, too. I think about the Steelers, and I was looking for an article because I wanted to make sure I had my facts straight here. Marquise Pouncey, one of the highest paid centers in the game, paid in 2014. David DeCastro just became like the second highest paid guard. You got Marcus Gilbert you're taking care of. They've invested some money in this offensive line. How in God's name is Le'Veon Bell your definition of the best running back in football, the best all-around running back in football?
Easy.
Le'Veon Bell, 10 running plays for him, 10, that's it? And 16 touches? No, something's wrong here. Something's wrong. So I'm just saying, second year, I apologize. Running back, second year play. He's not a rookie. He's second year. He's not a rookie. I apologize. What I'm saying to you is this. How does that happen? You're giving up 200 yards rushing while you're not running the football. With Le'Veon Bell and D'Angelo Williams. I got a problem with that. That's what got me worried about the Steelers.
Steelers are overrated, and I'm not saying they're not good. They're clearly good on offense. But what's going on with the Steelers right now, and by the way, you're a Steelers fan. The same reason as far as AFC teams go, I'm a Steelers fan, because when we're little kids, they won the Super Bowl every year. So the Cowboys were the team you rooted for if you were a front-runner type fan, and the Steelers were the correct out-of-market choice, and still I got some love for them. But this is called wish casting. Fans do it a lot. Organizations do it too sometimes. I wouldn't trade that prospect for the best player in the game. Why? Because it's your prospect and you wish that he becomes this great thing. The Steelers were all wish casting when we watch them. We saw what the offensive line could be last year. Oh, my God, Le'Veon Bell. And you're talking about Antonio Brown with Martavis Bryant. Ben Roethlisberger, who's evolved from a great football player early in his career to a great quarterback later in his career. This could be the greatest offense we've ever seen. If only the defense could bend but not break, we can see something special. But that passed already. The offensive line's not quite what it used to be. The defense can't defend the pass. Forget about the run. They can't defend the pass. They're near the bottom of the league in all that. Martavis Bryant can't play this season. So we're wishing that they could put it all together because we just want to see it. It would just be amazing to see. But they haven't been able to do it, and as a result, I don't think you can put them ahead of, clearly, of the Patriots or of the defending Super Bowl champion Broncos. That makes them, at best, third in the AFC, but a lot of people, like Stephen A., pick them number one to start the season. That's overrated.
Well, I picked him number one, too, to represent the AFC. And, listen, I'm still saying when Seven's back, he offsets a lot of those deficiencies. To your point, listen, everybody can have a hiccup. When in Philadelphia, you watch that game, I'm telling you, we'll focus on the defense for a second. The defensive line got mauled. Their linebackers were standing in quicksand. You're like, man, what made the Steelers great, actually, when they had the great defenses, two things. Their ends were anchors. You couldn't move. Footers. You could not move them. And their linebackers, this was talked about.
Lambert,
every defensive quarter. No, I'm just talking, recent 5, 6, 8 years when they won the Super Bowl. I mean, they were the most violent linebackers at the line of scrimmage, attacking it. Miami game, Jay Ajayi, last run of the game, defensive line slants, which is what you're doing when you're in desperate hope. You're trying to stop the run. You slant your line. You scrape your linebackers. The linebackers don't do it. They just stand there. Now, the only reason I point that out is because, that is mental errors. So you can coach and correct and change mental errors and become a better football player, better team. If you're just getting absolutely mauled and you're just not as good, because you go to the Kansas City game, then the Jet game, they played like that. There was a relentless, violent attack. And then all of a sudden in Miami, they looked just like they did against Philadelphia. So what I'm getting at is, the things that they're making mistakes on are mental errors that can be changed. You can correct them. I'll use the Giants. When the Giants lost the Patriots on the last game of the year and they went undefeated, then they beat them in the Super Bowl. It was mental errors that the Giants lost that first game and that they changed in the Super Bowl and a couple matchups that made the difference in that game. So I can see how things can evolve and change when Seven comes back. They are one of the best teams in football.
But listen, I had them number two, not number one, because remember, you picked Seattle, and I had New England going to the Super Bowl against Carolina. Lord have mercy. Okay, so that's the deal. Steelers was number two. I thought the Steelers would meet them in the AFC Championship game. I still think there's a chance because I think their offense can be that high-powered. But this is the thing. When you have a suspect defense, whether it's in your linebacking core or your secondary, you offset that to some degree. How? Ball control. offensively, running the football. And the fact that they're getting away from that, which is pretty much their identity, because even though they can throw the football, and we know that Big Ben likes to put it up there and likes to go deep, when you got Le'Veon Bell and when a guy like D'Angelo Williams has proven how reliable he is and what he can bring to the table, because he really could be a starting running back in this league if he was playing most other places. When you look at it from that perspective, there is simply no excuse not to give the ball more to your running backs. No excuse for that. Not only that, it'll limit the chances Big Ben takes, because over the last couple of years, Merrill, when he takes chances, sometimes it's not working out for him.
But Le'Veon Bell's value is not just running the ball. It's like you can line him up everywhere,
that's why I said get it to him.
outside.
Get it to them. Get it to them.
Got to get Le'Veon Bell the ball.
No, if there's any doubt, that's how they'll have to lean in order to have a shot against the Patriots, without a doubt. Have to.
Because there's going to be maybe no number 7, but there will be a number 12. And Tommy Brady. Merrill Hodge, thank you for breaking it down for us.
By the way, that damn Landry Jones. Could you do something, Landry Jones? Please. I mean,
when Stephen A. calls people up, they do step their game up.
Listen, Landry Jones, could you do something? Oh, my God. You got Antonio Brown, you got Coates, you got everything. You got Le'Veon, you got an offensive line, you got D'Angelo. I mean, it's you, Landry Jones. Could you step up and act like you got a job? Please.
Coates. Had him in daily
Pretty
fantasy,
please. Oh, my Lord. I can't. Merrill, I can't take it. I'm just saying. He depresses me.
We asked you which reaction from Sunday did you have the biggest problem with Cam, Odell, or Sherman? Those results after the break. Stay here. Very well done.
No applause. No. They got to earn their stripes. By the way,
what?
We got to I need to see some of the ladies out there in these videos.
Yes.
Remember, we're going to have a male and a female winner. So I need to see some ladies up in there as well.
We know we've got viewers. We want to see from them. I'm with you. Thank you for calling that out. Meanwhile, Richard Sherman's outburst on the sideline, Odell Beckham's penalty for taking his helmet off, and Cam Newton's Super Bowl-esque press conference. We asked you guys to vote on Twitter. Which one did you have the biggest problem with? And the results are in. Cam, 41%, Sherm, 34%, OBJ, 25%. Do you agree, Stephen A?
Of course I don't. I mean, they're obviously agreeing with Max, and, our viewers are, some of our viewers are entitled to be ignorant from time to time, and this is one of those situations. They're wrong. I mean, the fact of the matter is that I don't really have much of a problem with what happened with Cam yesterday. Not yesterday. I just don't.
Well, they're wrong, but not because of that. I did have a problem with what Cam did and what Odell did, because he actually cost field. It's a stupid rule in the NFL that a celebration or whatever can cost you field position. It's a really stupid rule. Nevertheless, it is one. Everyone knows it, and Odell broke it and could have cost his team. Sherman outburst ahead of Odell's. Sherman is upset because of miscommunication and trying to get things together. Odell takes off his helmet and gets the team penalized in a close game that they could have lost. I think Odell's was worse than Sherman.
I just look at Cam, and I think that Cam is bringing attention to the Carolina Panthers and their ineptitude in the offseason. They were feeling themselves with the reigning NFC champions. We can afford to be a bit laissez-faire and a bit arrogant in that regard, and I think that Cam Newton is frustrated having to eat up all the attention that comes his way.
Comes with the territory.
Well,
he's the face of the franchise. He was very nearly and may still be the face of the entire league, the face of the NFL. And when the people want to see when the going gets back and you take the heat, can you absorb it and not deflect it?
I can respect that. And, in theory, you're absolutely not wrong. But I don't believe that because you're paid, it gives organizations the license to lean on you and cover themselves. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
I don't believe that management for the Carolina Panthers, and to a lesser degree, Ron Rivera, should get to hide behind the spotlight being on Cam Newton when that offense is not the problem. Excuse me.
Two different things.
But let me say this to you.
Two different things.
Cam Newton's a leader, no doubt. Is Kuechly a leader?
Yep.
What's wrong with that defense? Because it ain't the offense that's the problem with the team. But Thomas Davis, I love Thomas Davis. He's big time. And him and Kuechly are playing, by the way. But shouldn't they be made to answer for their defense?
But everyone knows the quarterback is the biggest star on the team. They're the one who's going to have to talk. They're the one who's going to have to say how great everyone else is when it's good and how bad they are when it's bad, whether it's true or not. This is the way it's always been done, and it seems to work for the great ones. And if Cam wants to do it another way, fine. But then you got to do it while you're winning. This can't come out just in bad times. This has to come out in good times, too. This is only coming out in bad times.
Well, it's going to come out in bad times in terms of the organization leaving you hanging. When you know that the organization did what it's supposed to do and it's on you, then you have a valid point. But when you have to sit there and answer questions that are above your pay grade, when you have to sit up there and talk for a team that literally leaves you hanging because they don't sit up there and keep a Super Bowl championship contender intact, I think, and listen, I don't find anything extreme about what he did yesterday. That's the key that I'm saying here.
If the blogs all came to you and said, Stephen A., what's it feel like to get whooped up on by Max all day, every day? Would you just not answer, no comment? Would you storm off?
I absolutely.
Or would you take it?
I absolutely would, because I would have nothing to say. I would literally look at them and say, what the hell are you talking about? That's never happened. That's a very ignorant question on your part to sit there and think that I lose to Max Kellerman when I wax his behind every single day.
That's a diluted answer, but it's an answer.
I would sit up there and say that.
You wouldn't just storm off and pout.
Oh, no. I wouldn't pout, but I would storm off. Oh, let me tell you something right now. Ask people who run into me. They come up to me at the game. You got to come up to me with the right tone. You better not be disrespectful. And depending on your question, if it's a stupid question, I have walked by people.
That's a highly intelligent question.
I have walked by people and have completely ignored them. Ask them. Ask them. That's why people are very reluctant to approach me, because they know I might ignore you or I might cuss you out. Pick your choice. Pick your choice. I don't care.
The lesser of two evils.